5 years ago, a mother's heart broke when her son vanished from a park playground. He'd been there 1 second, giggling in the sunlight, and gone the next, leaving only confusion and sorrow. Endless searches, countless flyers, and desperate pleas to the police turned up nothing. The ache never dulled. Then one day, while wandering through a crowded festival, the mother glimpsed something that made her stop dead. Before this story rolls out, picture the scene: a sea of people, vivid banners flapping, and a single sighting that flips her world upside down. Before we jump into this gripping tale, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Give us a like and subscribe for more stories that keep you on the edge. 5 years had dragged on since Evelyn Carter's world fell apart, but the sting of losing her son Miles never softened. She trudged through Pine Hollow's winding streets, a small town cradled by thick forests, her arms weighed down with flyers. Each sheet carried Miles's face from when he was 6. Curly red hair, green eyes, a gap-toothed smile that once filled her mornings with light. At 41, Evelyn's features showed the toll of restless nights, her auburn hair dulled to a faint echo of its old fire. Today she aimed for the Pine Hollow Autumn Festival, a yearly push to keep Miles's name in front of strangers. The town square pulsed with energy. Booths overflowed with pumpkins, handmade quilts, and jars of spiced cider. A banjo player plucked a lively tune near a stage stacked with hay bales, his music threading through the hum of voices. Evelyn moved among the crowd, handing out flyers, her tone even. "My son's been missing 5 years. Have you seen him?" Most accepted them with quick nods, tucking them away. Others paused, their faces creasing with quiet pity before they drifted off. Her thoughts slipped back to that July afternoon. Miles had yanked at her hand, his voice bubbling. "Mama, playground? The tire swing, please." Worn from flipping burgers at the diner, Evelyn had sighed, rubbing her temple. "Fine, but don't wander." They'd reached Cedar Park, the air heavy with summer warmth. He'd bolted to the swings while she settled at a picnic table, sorting through a stack of order slips. A dog's sharp bark rang out nearby. She turned to hush it, annoyed. When she swung back, the playground was bare, swings swaying, slides silent. She'd shouted his name, her voice cracking as she checked every tree, every bench. Panic clawed her chest. Police arrived, swept the area, questioned joggers and a couple pushing a stroller. No tracks, no clues, just an empty space where Miles had stood. She'd stayed until the sky darkened, refusing to leave until an officer guided her to his car, her pleas fading into the night. Since that day, Evelyn had shed her diner apron for patchwork jobs, cleaning homes, mending clothes, anything to free her hours for the search. Her cramped apartment brimmed with Miles's life, crayon sketches taped to the walls, a worn stuffed bear on the couch, boxes of flyers stacked by the door. She'd pinned maps across the kitchen, marking every lead that fizzled out. Now, the festival's lively din grated against her stillness. She passed a booth of carved gourds, handing a flyer to the seller, a woman with silver braids and steady hands. 5 years is a long haul," the woman said, her voice low. "He's out there," Evelyn replied, her jaw tight as she moved on. Pine Hollow had shifted since Miles vanished. Park patrols roamed now, signs warned parents to watch their kids. Useless changes, she thought, like patching a wall after the house burned down. She paused at a kettle corn stand, the sweet pops cutting through the crisp air. A boy, maybe 10, took a flyer, his father glancing over his shoulder. "You're that lady," the man said, scratching his chin. "Every fall, huh?" Evelyn nodded, her grip firm on her bag. "Every fall till he's home." The man shrugged, handing it back to his son, who stuffed it in his pocket. Her eyes caught a cluster of kids tossing a ball across the square, their shouts slicing through the music. For a heartbeat, she saw Miles' red curls flying, legs pumping, then blinked hard, chasing the image away. Those flashes hit too often, hope twisting into a dull ache. She shifted her bag, the flyers crinkling, and kept walking. The festival glowed with families, their laughter a reminder of the life she'd lost. Her days ran on repeat: wake, search, hand out flyers, collapse into a quiet apartment. Sleep dodged her, fractured by dreams of Miles, calling from somewhere she couldn't reach. A familiar figure broke through the crowd. Nora Fielding, a baker who'd lived 2 doors down since Evelyn moved to Pine Hollow. Nora's round cheeks glowed from the chill, her brown eyes warm as she approached. "Evelyn," she said, stepping close. "You're back at it?" Evelyn clutched her flyers tighter, the paper edges biting her fingers. "Hey, Nora." 5 years today. Nora's brow furrowed, concern etching her face. 5 already? How do you hold up? Evelyn shrugged, her throat closing. "I keep going. It's all I can do." Nora rested a hand on her arm, her touch light but steady. "You've got grit, I'll give you that. Any news from the police lately?" Evelyn shook her head, her voice flat. "Nothing new. Case went cold. They say the odds are thin now, but I don't care." Nora watched a juggler toss flaming pins near the stage, the crowd gasping as one soared high. She turned back, her tone resolute. "You've hauled this load solo too long. Miles wouldn't want you running yourself ragged." Evelyn looked away, the words stirring guilt. She'd raised Miles alone since his dad walked out when he was 3. Back then she'd balanced greasy shifts and his chatter, always stretched thin. Now she'd trade the world for those chaotic days. Sticky fingerprints, his bedtime giggles. "Maybe," she said, her voice low, "but quitting's not an option." Nora squared her shoulders, her gaze firm. "Come with me. Let's grab cider. Hot, fresh, my treat. You need a breather even for a minute." Evelyn hesitated, her instinct to keep moving, warring with Nora's quiet insistence. The festival swirled around them, vendors hawking wares, kids darting through legs, her fingers loosened on the flyers. "All right," she said finally, "just a minute." They started toward the cider booth, the crowd parting like a slow river. Evelyn's eyes still roamed, scanning faces, but Nora's steady presence tugged her forward, a faint shift rippling through her endless chase. Evelyn Carter followed Nora Fielding toward the cider booth at the Pine Hollow Autumn Festival, the crowd's murmur wrapping around them like a loose thread. The air carried the sharp tang of apples and the faint crackle of a bonfire nearby. Evelyn's hands stayed tight on her bag of flyers, her eyes darting across faces even as Nora's steady steps guided her forward. They reached the booth, a wooden stand draped with burlap, where a teenage girl poured steaming cider into tin mugs. Nora handed over a few coins and passed a mug to Evelyn. "Drink," she said, her tone a mix of order and care. "You've been on your feet all day." Evelyn took it, the heat seeping through her fingers. She sipped, the spiced warmth cutting through the chill in her bones, a small jolt pulling her from her haze. They moved to a bench near the banjo stage, the music a steady pulse under the chatter. Nora sat, patting the spot beside her. Evelyn eased down, the wood creaking under her weight. She watched a group of kids chase a stray kite across the square, their laughter sharp against the autumn breeze. Nora sipped her cider, then turned, her brown eyes fixed on Evelyn. "You're running on empty," she said plainly. 5 years is a marathon, and you're still sprinting." Evelyn stared into her mug, the steam curling up. "I don't have a choice, Nora. Miles is out there." Nora nodded, her voice softening. "I know you believe that, but you're fading and it scares me." Evelyn set the mug down, her fingers tracing its edge. "What am I supposed to do? Sit still?" Nora leaned closer, her words deliberate. "No, shake things up. I've got a plan. My cousin's got a place up at Raven's Notch, 3 hours north. I'm free tomorrow, heading there for a couple days. Come with me." Evelyn blinked, the idea landing like a stone in still water. "Raven's Notch? I can't just leave, Nora. The festival runs all weekend. It's my best shot to get flyers out." Nora shook her head, undeterred. "You've blanketed Pine Hollow for years. This place has a harvest market tomorrow, bigger than here, pulls folks from towns we don't touch. Bring your flyers, spread them there." The suggestion hung between them, sharp and unexpected. Evelyn's mind churned. A market meant new crowds, fresh eyes on Miles's face, maybe someone who'd passed through Cedar Park that day. "I've got sewing jobs due Monday," she said, grasping for an excuse. Nora waved it off. "I'll help you finish tonight. We leave at dawn. Pack light. You need this, Evelyn. A change might spark something. Evelyn glanced at the kite soaring above the festival, its red tail whipping free. Nora's push felt bold, almost reckless, but the market tugged at her. A chance to widen her net. "Okay," she said at last, her voice firm. "I'll go." Nora grinned, clapping her hands. "Good! I'll swing by at 6. It'll lift you, I swear." They finished their cider, the mugs clinking as they stood. Evelyn handed out a few more flyers as they wove back through the crowd, her steps lighter with the plan taking root. The sun dipped low, streaking the sky with gold and amber over Pine Hollow. She reached her apartment, a squat brick building shadowed by pines, and unlocked the door. Inside, Miles's world waited. Drawings on the fridge, his bear slumped on a chair. Nora arrived an hour later, arms full of bread she'd baked, ready to tackle Evelyn's sewing pile. They worked side by side, stitching hems and patches, the quiet broken by the hum of her old machine and Nora's chatter about the notch-deep woods. By midnight, the jobs were done, shirts folded, curtains hemmed. Nora stretched, yawning. "Told you we'd manage. Get some rest." "I'll be here early." Evelyn walked her out, a flicker of gratitude warming her. "Thanks, Nora, for pushing." Nora winked. "See you at 6. Alone, Evelyn packed a duffel, sweater, jeans, a thick stack of flyers. She paused by Miles's photo on the table, his green eyes bright in the frame. "I'm still hunting," she whispered, zipping the bag shut. Sleep came fitful, her dreams a tangle of swings and distant voices. Dawn broke cold and grey, Nora's rusty sedan pulling up right on time. Evelyn climbed in, the engine coughing as they rolled out of Pine Hollow. The road stretched north, cutting through hills thick with evergreens, the air growing crisp as they climbed. Nora talked about the Notch, her cousin's cabin by a river, the market sprawl of stalls. Evelyn listened, her fingers brushing the flyers in her lap. 3 hours later, Raven's Notch emerged. A scattering of log homes along a rushing stream. The cabin sat on a rise, its cedar walls weathered, windows glinting with morning light. Evelyn stepped out, the river's roar filling her ears. "It's wild," she said, her voice low. Nora unlocked the door. "Wait till you see the market draws half the county." Inside, the cabin smelled of pine and smoke. Rugged chairs, a wood stove, a quilt thrown over a couch. Nora pointed east. "Market's a mile downriver. We'll head there after coffee." Evelyn nodded, unpacking her flyers and a pencil stub. She'd sketch Miles older, red hair longer, face sharper, to show alongside the old photo. They brewed coffee, the dark roast steaming in chipped mugs, and ate bread Nora had brought. Then they set out, following a dirt path beside the stream. The water churned over rocks, mist rising in the cool air. Evelyn felt the shift, away from Pine Hollow's familiar grind into something raw and open. The market waited ahead, a sprawling chance to chase her son anew. A step she didn't yet know would crack her search wide open. Evelyn Carter walked beside Nora Fielding down the dirt path, the Raven's Notch harvest market swelling into view as the river's rush faded behind them. The trees opened to a wide clearing, tents and tables sprawling across the ground, alive with the clatter of pottery and the sizzle of roasting chestnuts. The air hung thick with wood smoke and molasses, a sharper edge than Pine Hollow's festival. Evelyn gripped her bag, flyers tucked inside, her pencil sketch of Miles, red hair longer, green eyes steady, folded in her pocket. She'd drawn it that morning at the cabin, her hands steady with purpose. Nora nudged her. "Look at this crowd," she said, her voice bright. "Bigger than I promised." Stalls brimmed with leather goods, candles and barrels of apples, drawing folks from scattered towns. Evelyn scanned the faces, her pulse ticking up. She'd set up near the center, show the sketch, ask questions. Someone here might know something. They reached a table piled with woven baskets, its seller a lanky man with a quick nod. Evelyn pulled out a flyer. "My son's been missing 5 years. Can I leave this?" The man took it, squinting at Miles's face. "Rough deal," he said, tucking it under a basket. "Sure." She taped the sketch beside it. "This is him now." "Maybe." He glanced at it, then her. "Good luck." Nora pointed ahead. I'll scout the food stalls. Meet me by the cider press in an hour. Evelyn agreed, and they parted, her boots crunching on fallen leaves as she moved deeper into the market. She worked the rows, taping flyers to posts, handing them to vendors, a woman with jars of honey, a blacksmith shaping iron hooks. Each took one, some promising to spread the word. The crowd thickened as noon hit, voices rising over a fiddler's tune. Evelyn paused by a stall of painted stones, buying a water jug to wet her dry throat. She drank, watching a knot of kids kick a tin can near the tents. Then her eyes snagged on a roped-off section at the market's edge. Tables stacked with wooden carvings. A sign reading, Notch Crafters Guild. Men and women worked fast, sanding planks and chiseling details, a small group watching their craft. Something pulled her closer, her feet moving before her mind caught up. She edged past the rope, the market's hum dimming. A boy, maybe 11, stood among the workers, stacking finished carvings, birds, fish, small boxes. His red hair curled over his ears, his frame lean but strong. He turned, wiping sawdust from his hands, and Evelyn froze. Green eyes. Her breath caught, the sketch trembling in her pocket. He was older, his face longer, but that gap-toothed smile flickered as he grinned at a worker. 5 years could shift a child, but not those eyes, not that grin. She stepped forward, dodging a table. A woman in a guild apron noticed, her voice sharp. "Hey, no visitors here, back up." Evelyn stopped, her words tumbling out. "That boy, I need to talk to him." The woman crossed her arms. "Guild only, move." Evelyn pointed, her voice shaking. "He's my son, missing 5 years from Pine Hollow." The woman's frown deepened, but a man nearby, broad with a greying beard, overheard and turned. He walked over, the boy trailing him, carrying a carved owl. "What's this?" the man asked, his tone gruff. Evelyn faced him, her heart hammering. "I'm Evelyn Carter. My son Miles vanished from a park. That's him. I know it." The man's jaw tightened, his hand on the boy's shoulder. "This is my ward, Jasper. Been with me since he was small." "You're wrong." The boy, Jasper, looked up, his brow creasing. "Sir?" he said, his voice clear, unsure. Evelyn knelt, her eyes locked on his. "Jasper, do you remember a tire swing?" "A park by the woods." He blinked, glancing at the man. "I think so, a long time ago." The man's grip stiffened. "Enough. He's mine. Get out." Evelyn pulled the sketch from her pocket, unfolding it. "Look at this. It's him." The woman shifted, uneasy as the man's face flickered, control slipping for a split second. He snatched the sketch, crumpling it. "You're stirring trouble. Leave." Evelyn's voice rose. "I'm not leaving without him." The guild workers paused, heads turning. Nora appeared, breathless, pushing through. "Evelyn, what's going on?" Evelyn pointed. "That's Miles, I'm sure." Nora's eyes widened, landing on Jasper, then the man. "He's pulling him away. We need help." The woman called out, "Someone get the marshal." The man, beard grey, eyes hard, yanked Jasper toward a tent, his steps quick. Evelyn lunged forward, but the woman blocked her. "Stay back." A whistle cut the air. Boots pounded nearby. The market's edge tensed, voices rising, as Evelyn braced for what came next, her fight for Miles blazing alive. Evelyn Carter faced the guild tent at the Raven's Notch market, the bearded man dragging Jasper, Miles, away as the crowd buzzed. Nora gripped her arm, her voice urgent. "He's running." Evelyn's heart pounded, the crumpled sketch of Miles underfoot. The woman in the apron blocked her, but a whistle shrilled louder. Boots thudded closer. 2 marshals burst through, their badges glinting, halting the man mid-step. "Hold it," one barked, a wiry figure with a steady gaze. Evelyn rushed forward, pointing. "That's my son, Miles, missing 5 years from Pine Hollow." The man snapped. "He's Jasper, my ward." But his voice cracked, eyes darting. The marshals split, one pinning the man, the other kneeling by Jasper. Evelyn showed her flyer. "He vanished from a park. That's him, I swear." The wiry marshal studied it, then Jasper's face. "We'll check this. Everyone station." The man protested, but they cuffed him, leading him off. Jasper stood still, green eyes wide. Evelyn knelt. "Miles? It's me." He hesitated. "I know you?" Her tears broke. "I'm your mum." They took him gently, Nora steadying Evelyn as they followed. At the station, hours stretched tight. Marshals grilled the man. Orrin Tate, a guild carver. Jasper's DNA was rushed, Evelyn pacing with Nora. A marshal returned, face grim. "DNA's a match. He's Miles. Tate's talking. Snatched him from the park, raised him as his own. No family to contradict." Evelyn sobbed, relief flooding her. "Miles!" He stepped in, uncertain, then ran to her, his arms small but fierce. "Mama?" She held him, whispering, "I found you." Tate faced jail, his carvings no shield. Back at the cabin, Miles ate Nora's stew, saying, "I liked the swings." Evelyn smiled. "We'll go back." They returned to Pine Hollow, rebuilding, school, walks, his sketches on her walls. One day he asked, "Can we carve something?" She laughed. "Together?" Justice landed, but their bond rose stronger. Evelyn Carter drove back to Pine Hollow with Miles in the passenger seat, his small hands clutching a pencil and a scrap of paper from Nora's cabin. The marshal's truck trailed behind, a quiet escort after Orrin Tate's arrest at Raven's Notch. Miles sketched a bird, its wings jagged but bold, his red curls falling over his forehead. Evelyn glanced at him, her chest tight with a joy she'd forgotten. The town's familiar pines rose ahead, their shadows stretching long in the late afternoon light. "Almost home," she said, her voice soft. He nodded, green eyes flicking to her, a shy smile tugging his lips. The same one from her flyers, now real. At their apartment, the door creaked open to Miles's old world. Crayon drawings, his stuffed bear, a life paused 5 years. Nora followed them in, carrying a pot of stew she'd insisted on bringing. "He needs feeding up," she said, setting it on the stove. Evelyn watched Miles explore, his fingers brushing the bear, then the fridge where his art still hung. "I made these?" he asked, voice small. "Every one," she said, kneeling beside him. He traced a lopsided sun, memory flickering. "I liked yellow." She laughed, tears pricking her eyes. "You still can." Days turned to weeks, Pine Hollow buzzing with their return. Neighbors dropped pies. Kids peeked at Miles through the fence. Evelyn enrolled him in school, walked him there each morning, his backpack bouncing. After, they'd sit at the kitchen table, sketching, birds, swings, trees. "Tate taught me carving," Miles said one evening, sharpening a pencil. Evelyn nodded, hiding the sting. "We'll make our own." She bought wood blocks and tools and they carved together, rough shapes at first, then smoother, a shared rhythm building. One Saturday, Miles looked up. "Can we fix the playground? The swing's still there." Her breath caught. "Yeah, let's do it." They rallied neighbors, rebuilt the tire swing, painted it yellow. Miles swung high, laughing, as Evelyn watched, Nora beside her. "You did it," Nora said. Evelyn smiled. "We did." Tate's trial faded to noise. Prison locked him away. Their days grew, school, carvings, swings, a life reclaimed, sharper and brighter than before. If this story entertained you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.